All right, you're live.
Good evening, everyone. The date is Wednesday, January 10th. The time is 6:10, and we will call to order the meeting of the Cleveland Police Commission's Police Training Committee. So our first item of business will just be a roll call. To make sure we have quorum, Commissioner Benito.
Present.
Commissioner Johnson.
Present.
Commissioner Chura.
Present.
And I am Commissioner Adams, present. So to start, before we jump into what's planned, I wanted to know if there are any other items that anyone would like to add to the agenda. Anything? Okay, so we'll move forward. So the first item on the agenda was I know that Commissioner Benito has been working closely on the MRAC things and the CIT training and the mental health aspect of training. And so she worked with, I believe, the Adams Board.
And the chair of the chair, is this working yet? The chair of the MRAC training committee. She is also the director of education and training for the Adams Board.
So what I thought would be nice is we had worked on returning feedback for training that they were providing for the police. And so I thought it would be nice for her to update everyone on sort of what that was, because I looked at it with her and I really enjoyed and learned a lot actually from it. So I thought it would be nice to share.
Yeah, so today I have reviewed the it was a CIT training for dispatchers, and so I reviewed that and submitted feedback, and they submitted it again. I submitted feedback. The second training that we reviewed is Chair Adams reviewed it with me as well, was a trauma-informed care training, which will be one of the SCIT annual in-service trainings. And so that will be this year's annual in-service, because all the SCIT officers receive annual training, advanced training on mental health. So it was on trauma and trauma-informed care. And then, and we have the training meeting for MRAC tomorrow at 1 p.m. And one of the things that we'll be talking about tomorrow is they are starting to develop a training on personality disorders that will be for SCIT officers. So yeah, that's kind of an update. And I talked to Dr. Adams about this, but essentially when MRAC gives us the trainings to review, they usually give us about a 1 week turnaround, which is not a whole lot of time. And they acknowledge that us reviewing it is part of the process that needs to happen. And so right now, the way that that's happening is just by me being in that committee. And so I can forward it. I think it would be great if every time I forward it, there was one other person that can review it. But if that can't happen, I think that's okay. But because it's only about a week turnaround, it's not a lot of time for people. But yeah, so I'll make sure that everybody gets the draft trainings when they come out, and then I'll also send out a text so everybody knows that they got an email with it. But yeah, I think they're doing, they really do a good job with these trainings. They work with great experts around the state, and so yeah.
Thank you. I just wanted to add, we were doing this at like 4 or 5 in the morning one day, but I do want to say one of the things I really liked about the training, what I read, was it made me more cognizant of the trauma that police go through just doing their daily job. And I liked how the training was acknowledging that, but it was also pushing police to take more self-care and to be aware of their triggers, be aware of their own trauma. And I thought it was really useful, and I wondered if it was something that we could bring to the full commission, because it was really insightful. You know, there's so much talk about the police, but I think there's maybe not enough talk always about sort of their trauma. And then part of it talked about how, experiencing the type of trauma that police go through, particularly, I mean, I just was thinking that I would have a lot of anxiety if I was going into a situation and I didn't know exactly what was going to happen. Or it could be anything could happen. So I just thought it was useful for someone who's not a police. I think it would be useful for the commissioners, just for that perspective, and it was really well done. So
one thing I've been wanting to do, and I think that I might work with somebody on the behavioral health work group to do a training for the commission on mental health, because I think we talk a lot about mental health and crisis, but I think, a lot of us might not know, or, a lot of folks might not know really like what that means when we talk about mental health, what's the difference between crisis and mental illness, and, we could do I think we could do an hour and a half training on kind of understanding mental health crisis, and then also trauma and kind of link that to officer mental health. One thing is, as part of the policy committee, and then as a work group connected to the behavioral health work group, right now Angela, CC's, and I are planning on doing a officer wellness work group. It'll be separate from the behavioral health work group, but when we talked about kind of regrouping on it once we hit the new year. So she and I should be checking in on it soon, and I can definitely keep the training committee updated on that and what we work on.
Oh, thank you. All right, so the next item on the agenda is, we're just gonna do a quick, just to keep the public informed, but a quick review of the crowd management training that we did as well. So we received a series of documents from the training, the TRC committee from the police, and so it was dealing with crowd management. One of the items that was in the 2024 needs assessment that was sent to the Department of Justice and the monitoring team dealt with concerns over sort of what anticipating maybe protests or large crowd gatherings, particularly around this election. And so Commander Magoo wanted to update those materials. I remember when that report was sent to the DOJ, that was something that they were clearly concerned about and wanted to focus on for 2024. So we got those materials and we sent feedback to them. I know that Commissioner Benito did, and I did as well. I don't know if you want to say anything about sort of some of your the feedback that you sent.
Yeah, most of the feedback that I gave was some feedback that I gave was I liked how it talked about the importance of protecting free speech and people's right to protest, and I kind of had suggested that maybe they add something in about some of the ways that police have been used to historically to not do that, right? And to understand then what the impact, thinking about trauma and historical trauma, what the impact of that might be in terms of how people who are going to protest might be viewing what the police are going to do, and kind of making sure that people think about that. And then the GPO gives really great guidance on group de-escalation. And talks about how the de-escalation piece isn't just for individuals, but also should be for group. And it talks about how protest leaders should be communicated with, and groups should be communicated with, and protesters should be communicated with. And I thought that the training could go a little bit more into that. I also talked about there was some language where it talked in arrest procedures. It was sometimes calling people prisoners and then sometimes calling them arrested subjects. And I suggested that we only use the word arrested subject. And then I also suggested that when they do the role plays that they have some of the people who are going to be arrested have them really say some derogatory things about police, just because I think that we want to make sure that officers, I mean, I can only imagine that, I mean, it's tense, you know, if you're arresting somebody who isn't complying. And then also I imagine if that person is being disrespectful, but like that, I think there could be a natural inclination to maybe get a little rougher with them, right? But we want to make sure that people aren't doing that. So I thought that would, in the use of force training event, they really talked about ways that they try to dial up the pressure in those training scenarios. So that was one way that I thought they could practice that. So that, but I thought the training overall was fantastic.
Anyone else have anything about that?
I just got a quick question. I'm not the most computer savvy guy, but there were some photos in there showing how to carry people out.
Mhm.
Was there a connection to videos that they have? You know, they had the
I haven't seen
PowerPoint.
videos.
I mean, it was just like if you were regular PowerPoint, you would click on it and
Right.
the video would pop up. But
Yeah.
there was no access on that. I would
I
like
didn't
to see
see
the
that.
videos too. I would
Yeah.
more time, but
I didn't see that. I saw that we received a folder that had videos in it, but it was basically showing us like how the police would maybe carry a person out.
I
if
got
they
that.
had
I got
to,
the
like,
photos.
so I saw like there was the videos like showed like those type of things. They weren't actually interacting with it wasn't I didn't see it like embedded into
okay, yeah, that was my question because I saw that. I thought maybe my computer wouldn't have opened. Just making sure.
it was not you. It wasn't that was
Other than that, I thought it was good. I thought the photos were good, showing the little formation of different hand signals and everything else. I thought they did a pretty thorough job.
I didn't really know what to expect, but there were some things that I really liked about it. I think that it was called ABLE, Active Bystander for Law Enforcement Training, and there was a few things I really liked about it. One was an explicit conversation about culture, explicit conversation about trying to shift some aspects of the police culture with this ABLE training. And what I enjoyed about it, and I was happy to see, is that while they were training the police, I felt like what they were training the police on were things that you could just benefit from as a regular person.
Yeah.
That's the skills that they were teaching them in the training. I felt like were things that they could actually apply outside of the work. So it felt like it was almost like an investment in like the police as like whole people and helping them. So I thought that was really good. And I've shared it with the committee, but I just want to make sure the public is aware. But I did express a little bit of concern about, and Maguth responded to the email, but I want to have a discussion about, maybe not now, but I think we have to have a discussion with the police about getting more clarification on what the meanings of some terms are. So I think there was a part where they talked about people actively and physically resisting, and I wanted to know how actively was defined and how physically resisting is defined. I mean, they look like they're pretty simple terms, but I just didn't want.
So the use of force.
Definitions, GPO.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that they weren't subjective.
Yeah.
But I know that those that language has been approved by the DOJ and the monitoring team. So, I just wanted to open up that discussion because I didn't have clarity on
That doesn't mean we can't look at it. I mean, I think this is an example of things that we might see in training that we might say to the policy committee, hey, in seeing this, we think that, the way that maybe it reads one way in a GPO, but when you actually start to do training on it, I think it can come across a different way. And so I think that can definitely be something we can, that might be something that we look at and then see if we want to flag for the GPO or the policy committee.
There was like a few other things that I was kind of the other side of me was thinking about is, I don't want to say asking too much of the police, but some of it felt like, for example, with the spray, using the spray, and the one of the lesson plans had talked about, you know, and we're thinking about these. Think about if we're like if it's a protest and if things get out of hand like they did in 2020, and so they were like what directions like before you use your spray, think about what direction the wind is going. I'm like, I get it, but I don't know. I wouldn't want to, you know, a police to get into too much trouble because they didn't figure out what way the wind was going. But I understand why it's there because you don't want to spray it and then the wind, you know, the wind takes it where you don't want it to go. But I also thought I thought that what they were training them on was like very, very thorough though. It was very thorough even to that point. But I don't know, I want to be fair. I don't want to put unrealistic expectations on the police. So I just wanted to you know, talk about that too. Because I think we don't want to burden them with so many things that it makes it almost impossible for them to do their jobs. But that was just a concern of mine. Nothing too pressing, but I just wanted to just open up a discussion about, you know, do we need to look at some things like that too?
I've never liked pepper spray as a less lethal option. I carried it when they gave it to me, and it just like you said, it's almost like too complicated. You know, sometimes it doesn't work, or you're gonna spray your partner, you're contaminating stuff. Now with the crowd control, I could see it being deployed, even with the shifting wind in Cleveland. You know, I think definitely it's something that sometimes you have to use. And one good thing with the officers, they could mask up on it, so it's not going to affect them, but it will affect the crowd, right? So that's you know, it's something to consider. But I think if you have the planning beforehand, I think they'll be okay with putting it out there if they have to.
But yeah, that was that. I don't know if anyone else has anything else about the training. Like I said, I thought it was good. I really thought it was. I mean, I think we've been fortunate in this area because the training is actually better than I thought it was going to be. Actually, it really is.
I think one thing, just as someone who's participated in a lot of protests, one of the things that I always think is interesting is, you know, a lot of at what point the city, and because, you know, it's often not necessarily the police or the commander, like the scene commander that's making the decision about at what point police shut the protest down and ask people to disperse. And so much about how protests go and whether protests are allowed to happen is happening because of other people making that decision. And then at that point, police become the enforcers. And so that was something that I was thinking about. And, you know, they talked about, you know, the right of protest to occur as long as it's not, you know, creating traffic unsafety or disrupting things. And it's like, I thought it was kind of interesting. I mean, because that's the point of protest, right? It's to, you know, and they talk about that a little bit, but I think that like there is a piece of this that is like, you know, an unplanned, a protest that gets a permit and is 100% planned to not disrupt anything as a parade. Right. You know, like that's not necessarily what a protest is. Like there's a part of like the disruption is a strategy for making a message.
Breaking the law strategy, or what are we saying? I mean,
well, I mean, I'm just saying
you're on the highway blocking traffic. I mean,
I know I'm not. I'm just saying that
that's one that, you know, if they get it with the command and disperse, then you better disperse, otherwise.
Right. But I think that also, I think it's often not even the commander that's making that decision. I think there's other people making the decision about, okay, it's time to shut.
Well, what do you mean other people?
I don't know. Maybe,
someone
can you tell
in
me?
Ivory Tower somewhere?
I don't know. Who do you think makes that call?
I would think it would have to be the commander on the scene, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And they're the ones that'll read, you know, the specific notice for them to disperse.
Yeah.
You know.
I guess one thing that I find interesting is also, like in my experience with protests, is at what point the police do that is wildly different. Even when traffic's being blocked, you know, it's felt, at least as a protester, have felt a little arbitrary.
Oh, I'm sure it is. I mean, you got different crowds. If you got a certain number of police and you got bunch of people blocking traffic on the highway, there's not too much you could do at that time,
Yeah.
so.
But it's just interesting because, protest is, right, is both inherently protected speech and also usually does involve some sort of law breaking, whether that's trespassing or, So I feel like that was part of the lens that I viewed the training as. It's like their job is to enforce the law. And so it's like, I thought that with how they did it was extremely well done. And I did think really tried to emphasize why people protest, what people's rights are. But I also think that there will always be some part of that is a little bit in opposition to, just completely following.
My
the law.
experiences with protests, on the other side of the line, I think, from what I've seen, I'm telling you, the officers are really well disciplined, and people will be screaming in their face, and they don't take the bait. From what I've seen, they've been very professional. I'm not saying everybody is everywhere, but the guys I saw, they were pretty good about it.
Yeah.
Let somebody vent on you, whatever.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it?
But even that is connected to what we were talking about with the trauma-informed training, right? And the ABLE training that you would want. I mean, it's kind of, it's like sort of the job you signed up for. But I believe that that's where some of these other trainings are important, so that people are in the right space to do that job.
Yeah.
And not go beyond where they should go.
Yeah.
So I think kind of like all of this is kind of connected.
Yeah, for sure.
In some ways, because if a police officer is not in a good mental space, then it probably increases the chances that something that shouldn't happen might happen.
Yeah, for sure.
I agree totally. I mean, you got stuff going on in your life, and you got a short fuse some days.
Yeah.
And we all have bad days, right?
We
Everybody
sure
has bad days. We're normal people. We have jobs. Like, even in my job, like I just having I have to warn people, I'm just not having a good day. I really think you should kind of keep some distance from me today.
Yeah.
So I think it's just all interesting. But I do think that's something to think about. There is like this inherent conflict between protesting and staying in compliance
with the law.
with the laws fully, right? I mean, it's an inherent conflict.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we can probably think about that and come back to it another time.
And they did talk about civil disobedience in the training, which was great.
So it was good though. I mean, we were talking about it, but it was good. Is there anything else on that? I really just want to keep the public informed, because I think that, this committee just kind of, we work with the training aspect of the police, but I think that we just kind of work and quietly
There's a lot behind
do things, and so we could just do a good job of just letting the public know that we are actually working with the police, and we actually are reviewing things, and we actually are, doing that part to try to especially fulfill that part of the consent decree. But I overall, I will say that I have been pleased and impressed with the trainings that we have reviewed so far. I thought we were going to get on this committee, and I thought it was going to be a mess, and I thought we were going to have to, be more headbutting with them, but it has really been easy to work with them and collaborate with them, because what they're giving us is actually thoughtful and good training.
Yeah.
So hopefully that will continue, and we'll have less violations of training that then has to go to, OPS or, or God forbid
Props to the training division.
Yeah, they really do deserve some credit. The next item I wanted to do, we didn't really get a chance to at the full meeting, the special meeting that we had, but I did want to sort of do a little debriefing about the training event. So I think at this point, I feel like Commissioners Donaldson and Trilla should lead this part of the agenda? Just to kind of.
Yeah, that's fine. So first things first, I thought the training went well. I think that the flow of everything was on point once we started. We did start about 35, 40 minutes late, just because we were trying to give people time to get there. Because right at the start time, there was one community member there. So we had to, kind of wait around and see who else was going to show up. But at the end, I don't have the exact count, but I'm pretty sure there was at least 25 to 30 people who attended. So we were able to stay in one group. The initial plan was for us to break everyone up into 3 groups, but we decided to just stay in one group, and that made more sense for how the day went. And then I did go through the feedback that we received, and I just pulled out some of the comments. So I'll just go through some of those now. So these are from the people who actually attended the training event, and we gave them a feedback sheet, and they were allowed to write some comments on there. So these are the feedback. So the training expelled myths about use of force. Great event and experience. One person said, how can we increase public participation, which is definitely something that's, we're thinking about. Someone else said, provide videos of scenario training to be shared on Facebook and block clubs. And then someone just made a general comment that officers have a lot to handle and people think that it's easy. So the training allowed us to take an inside look at the job in order to see what they go through. Someone suggested announcing the event via the councilperson's newsletters, nextdoor.com, which I actually spoke with the person who gave this feedback, and I really appreciate that because I just never thought of nextdoor.com as a place to advertise, but she told me that that's how she finds out about all of the community events, that they literally have them advertised there, and if you log in, it pulls up a whole bunch of things that are happening. Someone noted that.
Did we reach out to the district policing committee to advertise the event?
Yes, and I did see the event advertised on social media through the police department and also through the districts. I actually was scrolling through Instagram one day and I saw it. So yeah. Someone said that we ran out of time for comments at the end, which I did see that. But the other thing I thought that we did great was by allowing the question and answer time at the end of the scenarios.
Yeah.
Because I think that really decreased the amount of questions that people had once we all came together, because they were allowed to get out their thoughts and comments on the spot. So I think next time around, we should look at giving maybe a little bit more time for questions and comments at the end of the scenarios. I think that will really help because once we got to the panel, it was really just general, questions like, what do you have? What are your thoughts? So I thought that was a great idea that we allowed questions to be asked at the end of the scenarios. Someone said that they still didn't really understand the thought or the difference between serve and protect versus shoot to kill. And I know that this came up during the training. And so I think next time around, we could probably do a better job at having the department just speak more about that or more thoroughly about that and their mindset when it comes to that, because we know that that's not their mindset. But this person wrote that, quote, someone will die today, but it will not be me, is how they felt. Someone said community engagement was robust, which I thought that was great. I really appreciated how people were, like I said, asking questions on the spot. And it was really like a discussion. There wasn't really a lot of, I guess, hand raising, or like, it was really just us in a room talking openly about things. People were very respectful about each other's thoughts. So yeah, I thought that part was great. Someone said it was eye-opening, insightful, well-organized, and well-executed. And then one comment that I know for sure, I kicked myself because I didn't think about this until afterwards, but someone said that they would have the officers sit at the tables with the community members. And that was a really great point, because the officers that were there in the main room were sitting at the back table.
Right.
So it would have been great to kind of pull them into the crowd.
Maybe have some planned kind of interaction activities. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think we're really on point. I was pleased with how it turned out. I was at the beginning. I was like, "Whoa, all right, how's this gonna go?"
Yeah.
But I think that it really, it went well, and I think that by it being the first event, that allowed us to kind of see how things would go. So I appreciated it being more intimate, and we know what to do moving forward. And even for the police department, they've got an idea of what they need and what could improve things from their end as well. But yeah, Jim, I don't know if you have anything to add.
No, I know you did a lot of the legwork on it, checking the site and stuff. My schedule, I'm kind of tied up, so you did a lot of the work. Going down to the range was fun. Talking with the sergeant down there and trying to arrange some stuff with them. Yeah, I thought it went really well. Scenario training was around when I was still there, and it does when you're doing it. And like they said, I was a captain at the time, so I'm doing it in front of everybody.
Right.
But sometimes it's like riding a bike. You still know you talk to people the right way, and try to de-escalate, and it works out. And sometimes it doesn't. But I think the training was really good. I think this year, all the commissioners, I think we all need to go to the range, see if you don't want to shoot it, have a demonstration of all the different weapons they use down there. Go to the gymnasium and handcuff somebody, get out there and actually try to do it.
Yeah.
Once they show you techniques, just so you have an idea of it. It's different, driving a car is one thing to talk about it, but to get behind the wheel is a whole different thing. So it would just give you an idea of how difficult it is. Like you said, to shoot to kill. They're not shooting to kill, they're shooting to stop the threat, and they shoot center mass to try to do that as quickly as possible for their safety and safety of others and the suspect. But I think, to avoid having to go in public, we could split up into 3 different groups and actually go over the force continuum more thoroughly, so you get a better understanding of that. I know we've had some of it, but put it into action is a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
But if we could keep us, I don't know, probably avoid public records, we could be split up into 3 different groups or do different trainings on different days, whatever we got to do. But if you don't want to do it, I guess there's no way we can really force anybody. But I think it gives you a better understanding of what's really going on out there, not the stuff you see on TV.
Yeah.
Is that something you think maybe in the future that we should try to organize? Should we work with
Yeah, I think I'd like to talk with
commanders,
the commander and see if we could do that for us. And I think they got an academy class in there now, which is doing some training at the range in different places. So if you have time, if you're not doing anything on a certain day, I know everybody's busy, but if you could go and maybe just observe the training in the classroom, or if they're doing a practical exercise, even better.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to do that.
Yeah.
I think you guys did a great job. I know that one of the concerns that that when the time that I met with Magoo and the other members of the TRC is, I was kind of more concerned about it being like too big, too fast. So I think you all did a great job of making adjustments to the event in real time. And it, like you said at the end of the day, it was almost like a good trial run.
Yeah.
That we were able to do with a small, intimate group. So I thought it went well. I did ask Commander Magoo if we could do the next one on the west side in March, but then he suggested April. So where we are now, because I think we're all on the same page that we want more people. But that's going to require more time for us to promote.
Yep.
So I kind of was okay with him pushing it back a little bit more, because I feel there's more time to promote. So basically I'll keep following up with him, but we're just waiting for a date. I literally just told him, just give us a date. We kind of know how this goes now, and so then we'll just get working once we just get a date.
I do think that we should give ourselves probably at least 60 days to promote.
Yeah.
So I think I might have mentioned this to you, but depending on what date he comes back with, we might need to think about maybe a date in May as well. So maybe give us a couple of different dates
Right.
that could work. Because I mean, we're already 10 days in to the new year. So yeah, we gotta keep that in mind, because I really want us to just hit the ground running once we get the date set. Word of mouth works great, and that's the type of event that's the type of method that's gonna get people there, is word of mouth, and us really pushing it and promoting it.
I mean, I think doing something in the spring would be good. But I think after that, maybe like every 6 months or so we don't burn them out. But I think part of the participation was, Christmas, people are shopping and
Yeah.
things like that. And then maybe even back the hours up, start at 10 or whatever. And so,
Yeah.
like,
For sure.
something like that, I think it's really good. I think if we could have people come down to the range and the officers could just demonstrate what they're taught to the public, if somebody would be interested. I know that's.
But that 60 days would allow us, we could work with Shelley to, come up with like a marketing plan. We can come up with a list of, community events. I know there's those monthly meetings that they have in the districts, and that would give us time to coordinate with more people. And, I would go to my district meeting and I would get on the agenda and I would, talk to the people in my area about it. So I think I agree with you. So, maybe just keep that in mind as I'm working with Magoo about a date, and kind of just put that bug in his ear that we really would like 60 days to promote. And then with him having that information, then he could work with us to make sure that we have the 60 days. But I thought it was solid. I was happy with it. Like you're in a space and you can kind of feel the energy in a room. And sometimes the energy can be tense. It can be tense. It can be super calm. It could be open where people feel really comfortable just talking to each other. It just felt that people were there for the right reasons and that people were more open-minded. And it was really nice to see, especially like by the end, like you just have like police just talking to people in the residents in the city, right? And I thought that was probably one of the highlights for me, to see what the full potential of an event like this could be, if we have a little bit more time to plan it and promote it. So I'll say well done, Commissioners Donaldson and Chura.
Thank you, guys. Good job.
You did a great job on that.
I also know that TV20 was there.
Right.
And they took some footage, but I haven't seen. Has anyone seen anything? Or
I have to reach out and we get that. I don't even know what they did with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got
They didn't send us anything that was published, and I searched the internet to see if they published anything. There was nothing that I could find. So
thank you. Also, shout out to Executive Director Jason for just being there and supporting. And I know that you've done things like this in the past, but I think you kind of helped me be at ease because definitely when we first started, there was a moment where I was like, oh, I don't know how this is gonna go. And I don't know if you felt that energy, but you did a great job at kind of keeping me calm.
thank you. I appreciate the compliment. But we haven't done anything like that before, so kudos to you all for being brave enough to try something different. I think it was a kind of an organic idea. We all came to the idea that, hey, this would be good. But once we said, yeah, let's do this, everybody, put their part in and stayed committed to it. And it was really a very novel event, and I'm proud of us. So thank you all.
Anything else to add about the event? I'm proud of our committee.
Me too. I think one thing I also really enjoyed about it was that all the scenarios were based on real situations that happened. And so I just thought that was excellent. And I thought that, in the question and answer afterwards, they gave a lot of context about, what happened in the real scenario and kind of understanding what principles were going in and on. I think it really created some good dialogue. So yeah, you guys did an excellent job. I really enjoyed the event, and I'm looking forward to, what we're going to continue to do. So good job, everybody.
If there's nothing else on that, so at Commissioner Benito's suggestion, we've been returning the materials that we need to return, but I also, to, your suggestion that sometimes it can be tough to get all 4 people to work on returning materials back. So her suggestion is that if everyone's okay with it, that we sort of have an approach where when we get materials in, then maybe 2 of us will say, hey, we're going to work on this. And then we kind of coordinate together. And then, those people can rotate. And then if you have time, you jump in and volunteer. If you don't have time, you're fine. Right? Because I know, people get busy at different times and people's workloads, the ebb and flow of it. So I don't know how, I know that Benito and I are okay with that, but I did want to talk to Commissioners Donaldson and Church to see how you would feel about if that's sort of like how we would structure feedback.
I'd say I'll give it a shot.
Yeah, I like that idea. I think that would be a good approach.
And then the other thing is, and then I think, that probably would help us to make sure that we get things returned on the tighter timeline. Because I know that at least for me, I try to always work with people and collaborate with people. And so I don't want to make it seem like I'm shutting somebody out, but I also don't want to be too pushy and inconsiderate of whatever's going on in people's personal lives. So it's like always a thing where you're trying to have a balance between, okay, this is what we got to do,
Right.
but you also want to be considerate and be a good, colleague and be, considerate of, things that you may not know.
Yeah.
So I don't think we have to vote on that or anything. I think we just.
One thing I'll say is, don't be afraid to ask for content. So like I sent the GPOs out on crowd control, I think, but the division is making assumptions because without seeing the GPO, you can't know what's missing from the training, right? So that's why I did that. So don't be afraid to ask for staff to say, hey, we got this training. Can we have a meeting where we ask the division to come in and train on the GPO before we evaluate the training, right? Something along those lines. So any context of these things that you need beforehand. And I know we were on a timeline with this one, but even reading in all the years I've been doing this in special events and special operations and stuff, like for me, reading that crowd management stuff, even I was like, I've been out of it for a minute, so some of these things are new. The best practices are something that I wasn't up to speed with, so I had to do some research.
Right.
So don't be afraid to ask for the background material you need to give good feedback. And if we need to slow down the process for you to get educated on what you're commenting on, it's always acceptable to do that.
Okay, so we'll be fine with that. And then I think the only other thing, and it's not, something that we need to actually do today, but I do want to just put out there that we talked about this, that we probably still need to get some clarity on the dispatcher stuff. So I don't know, I don't think we're still clear about where this committee stands when it comes to the training of dispatchers. So I know we've been talking about that for a while.
Well, I don't think I understand where the commission stands in terms of dispatch, in terms of like, are we over, like dispatch is technically part of the division, but right now we're not. Yeah, I think there's some question marks for broader than just us as well.
Okay. So that's something that we should probably think about. And something we can probably work on trying to figure out. Do you have thoughts on that?
So there's no doubt that dispatch reports to a police commander, but sometimes they have separate protocols and policies. You don't see dispatch GPOs in the police GPO book.
Right.
So, could you make a recommendation for a dispatch thing? Sure, but the question is if you wanted to press your authority to change it, where would it stop? So nobody's prohibiting you from looking at a dispatch policy, right? But do you have final authority in dispatch policy? That is an unknown. No.
Question mark.
Until you try to do that,
What do you make?
But if you wanted to look at something, I would say, feel free to request it.
I mean, it's a different contract, but it's under the purview of the police department. As Jason said, the commander's there, lieutenants there, sergeants are there. There's chief dispatchers, which is like they're over like dispatchers too, but, so I think we have some say in that. If worst comes to worst, we'll have our own attorney look at it.
Yeah.
I would think.
I think so at some point, probably in the next year or so, it might be good to have a dispatch work group somewhere.
One thing I do know is I know they're under a lot of stress because they're stuck there and,
Yeah,
you know, it's, I guess, supposed to be really stressful for them.
yeah.
That obviously might be a good idea for a work group.
Could be an inter-committee work group too.
Do y'all think we should we know this is something we need to look at some point. I don't want to make arbitrary requests if, we're not gonna have the time to look at the materials, but at some point we should think about when's a good time to request those materials, so we can look at them.
So when a specific training comes, if it comes to the TRC and it's dispatch oriented, then I would say go at it. I wouldn't, right now, considering the policy motion that the commission just passed, we are trying to assess our policy workload and it's heavy. So I wouldn't go looking for more work right now. I think you have more than you could chew already. So unless you have an articulated need to look at something specific in dispatch at the moment, which I don't think you do, there's no need to just throw out a net and see what you find. I would wait until, like, you have a specific need in behavioral health to assess how that because that's the first point, right, in that chain. We don't have that with any other thing that I'm aware of right now, where we have to assess how does dispatch play a role in something we're looking at. So I would say right now, just, if you have an identified articulated need, so if you're reviewing some training and they mention dispatch and you're like, whoa, I'd like to see what dispatch does in this scenario, then you make that specific request. But other than that, you have more work than you're capable of doing at the moment. And we don't know what TRC, we haven't had our first quarter TRC meeting, so you might get really busy really quick and you're going to be down, recognizing that one of the members of the training committee is taking their leave, Commissioner Nelson, so you'll be down one member. Chair Adams, you may be moving out because you're moving to higher, you're in the running for chair, so this committee might be in flux, and so until you know what your workload is, you have to stay connected.
Those meetings aren't scheduled yet, right?
No, we don't have this
The
quarter's,
TRC.
they're quarterlies, I think, and we haven't got an invitation for this quarter's TRC meeting yet. So,
Because last time we got, it was just like in a week in advance, so hopefully we'll get it more.
Yeah.
Advanced next time.
I guess that's the last thing I would say. I was just thinking about, you sometimes when you have a task, so you just like focus on the task. So I feel like we've been fortunate enough that we've had a flow of work coming from the police for us to review, and then we were working on this event, and so we kind of were like focused. I was just trying to think about sort of as we evolve as a committee and we move forward. One of the things that I think that I feel like training is kind of like in the middle of a lot of this stuff. It's like we got policy on this end, and then we've got accountability on this end, and then especially with doing events and these trainings and stuff, we need to have a good relationship with the outreach committee. So I just think that one of the things that we should think about is sort of how I feel like the commission's getting to a point where we have to start collaborating and coordinating with different committees better.
Yeah.
Because now, like, I'm just thinking about, for example, if there was something wrong with the crowd management stuff, then what might have needed to happen was we needed to go into those GPOs and just send them the policy, right? So I just think that we're getting to the point where this committee is really critical to how I think the work is going to get done on the commission, and also sort of, basically how the work is going to get done. Because if something happens in accountability, like I remember when we were in Chicago and talking to the people from the CPRB. And as we were talking about some of the things that they see on the CPRB, and she was like, but we sent them back to get trained, but the training wasn't really great, right? And so she was saying, so I'm talking to her, and I'm like, wait, so that means that we need to have a relationship with CPRB because they're seeing a lot of these things that, and I just feel like that's a relationship we need to develop. And then we might also want to think about maybe inviting them and bringing them here to talk to us about some of the things that they've seen, and that maybe if we have the authority to do it, then maybe we should propose changes.
Mhm.
So I think that relationship building and collaborating within the commission, but also with the other police entities, independent police entities in the city, is something that we should be looking to do as a committee as well. So I know I just wanted to say that. And then if there's nothing else, can we open up for public comment?
To the chair, one item here in your framework for this committee, you guys did write that in the first quarter of this year, you would start looking at reviewing bias-free training on your own.
Yeah.
So that's not going to come down the pipe in the TRC anytime soon, but it's something that's a high priority to the public. And so you can establish a work group for that if you want tonight, or you can think about how you want to approach that in the next. But in this first 4 months, we had made a commitment on paper to start looking at reviewing what they have for bias-free, right, and then doing kind of a meta-analysis of the new science around that, and seeing how we can maybe update training and some of the ideas, and that may require some coordination with policy to see where their policy's at. But that's certainly something that was high on the issue 24 because they specifically gave us authority in bias-free and mentioned that as one of the things in bias-free, and then you had it in the framework. So just keep it in mind. You don't have to have a plan tonight, but it is in our first quarter objectives to at least start looking at that and evaluating how we feel about it. And that's one of the ones I would recommend, that if we form a work group, we reach out to the community, see if we can get some experts in that who are teaching it right now, who are leaders in it in the community, to come in and kind of help us, get a compass for where this needs to go.
I would certainly be willing to serve on that work group if we form it.
And I think I would volunteer. Anybody want to volunteer?
Well,
Well, you
time.
don't know.
Yes,
Charles
sir.
will be gone for a little while. But this
I'll
one
volunteer.
could take as long as as almost half the year or longer before you decide what you're gonna do with this. So
I'm thinking like what we could do is we could, so we can make this the focus of the next meeting. We can work in a work group, and then we can start doing things like reaching out to people and going through whatever the written materials that we have now. And then we can kind of set sort of like an agenda of sort of like how we would approach it. So we can work on that.
Also, that was one of the first things we reviewed, right? Bias-free. We gave them some sort of feedback on the train. I remember because we met and talked about it.
It was, they had a couple slides on it as part of the annual in-service. So it was just,
Yes, that's what
it was just
Okay.
a few slides on it.
Okay.
But one of the things that in some of the feedback we gave, they did say, and I think so this might be something we want to consider with the policy committee, is they said we're a little bit bound by what's in the GPO. And so some of the stuff that's in the GPO, I think there's better, we might, so I think that if we could get access to the materials that they have for what they do, maybe in the academy,
so in 115, it even touches hiring and recruitment, how they screen for bias-free. So this is, I think you're gonna, in this work group, you could try and pull in other commissioners who are in other committees that can look at those things concurrently.
Yeah.
But it is something that will, the reason it's in here is because it's one of our consent decree objectives to make sure that we cover this space to meet our own requirements in consent decrees to review this. So we don't have to wait for TRC to bring it to us. This is one we should probably self-initiate, and get the ball rolling in 2024 to get us compliant with the paragraph to review and comment bias-free in the Cleveland Division of Police.
So what do you need me to do? Do you need me to send you a formal request for?
No, I think
materials, or-
if you're fine, if the two of you, we can sit down and you're already doing so many work groups, what we'll do is we'll decide who we want in the work group, and then we'll have at least one work group meeting before your next training committee meeting to just kind of flesh out who's there, what their thoughts are, review some of the materials we have. We can ask the division to send their expert in on it, whoever they're using as their expert to inform us what they're doing, how they're using it, that kind of stuff. But this is definitely one the community has long awaited us to be more involved in and have more stuff in. And as far as past recommendations of the commission, they're voluminous. This was Dean Fishers was the first person to take this on for the commission, so he established a work group, and it was really a good work group of some of the best minds at the time in the field. I think this was 2016 they did this, and they had such a voluminous amount of recommendations when they created their first set of recommendations to the division on bias-free that he had it hardbound because it was such a doctrine at the time. Some of that science might have become a little bit stale because it's been 7 years roughly since some of that stuff was. So it definitely needs a refresher from us, the whole topic in general, and how the division handles it.
And we also, I think we have materials for that in the binder that we initially got.
Yeah.
Those materials are there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the next step, is the three of us getting together and just talking it out.
Sounds good. Anything else? So I guess now we'll open up for public comment.
Now, first, thank you for a productive meeting. So when you are productive, you make me productive too. However, my productiveness sometimes is categorized into the unpopular opinions. Because when you guys all agree on something, you will have a blind spot. And this is where the public comments I do the best. First thing, I would like to show my appreciation of the training, the scenario-based training. I attended that one, and I really think we should make that as a regular thing. If you want to put that every 6 months, fine. We probably should avoid holiday seasons or severe weather. So if we can move that to spring and fall, that would be nice. I definitely, and I wish we can also find a location which can be as flexible as the location we had for our trial run. That means we get a big crowd, we can go. If we have a smaller crowd, not a problem. Try not to find a place which is only good for 40 people. In case we really showed up 60 to 80 people, that type of situation. So we need an equivalent location which can be flexible. And now here comes to these two good things. Now I have to go through some of your discussion, which I think you are too optimistic. I don't know if any of you actually have ever been protest yourself. I have been all kinds of protests, not as attendees. Some of them I organized them. If you think City of Cleveland, our police are very good at handling protesting, you are very wrong. I have been in protests in person because I told you even I have organized some. Now, sure, some of my experiences is even over, not only in Cleveland. 2 years ago when I went to Akron, 4th July, to do protesting for Jalen Walkers, we got tanks. So things can go completely out of your imagination. Yes, you guys have very good idea, and I believe you firmly support a First Amendment, freedom of speech. However, police by nature is not on this side of it. So I want to use the real experience people in this community have encountered. When COVID-19 pandemic started, remember that was also at around the same time we had that particular incident with George Floyd. At that time, we did have also a big protest here around the same day, I wouldn't say because we do have a different time zones, with lots of other major cities, minor cities in the whole country. It's not only the protest itself went wrong, it's also the more serious issue was whatever happened after the protest event itself. Now, let's go to the protest that day, the event itself. At the very beginning, yes, people, I'm talking about the protesters. Sure, they may, same thing. They had the chanting, they have this, they had that. The people who actually, should I say, register to attend the protest, those people were peaceful ones. Even they had strong language, whatever, they did not go overboard. The problem here is lots of time in these kind of protests, you always have people from outside coming in. And lots of them we know they are even being paid to come in to create chaos. However, when this starts, the chaos starts. Remember, it was on the TV footage for our local channel. Don't even worry about all other cities. Cars were burned. All the business along the areas, they were broken in. They had damage, property loss, all the kind of stuff. Rebel on public square, even lots of people do not appreciate that particular family, the owners. They don't like their politics, but for that particular place to be burned and to be broken, the glass and everything, then you had other nonprofit or volunteer actually to go there later to help to clean it up. So all these things happens. But the problem is when the chaotic situation happens, police in general have no way to know who is the rightful protesters who are not. So please understand this part. That's why you have to really check out this crowd management thoroughly for that. Because what happened, especially during that time, and some people did get arrested, and you have a footage to even show, don't even think about this as a racial thing, because we have a white residents getting beaten up. They were there protest. They think it was racial injustice. They supported. They had the right for their First Amendment rights too, right? But they could get beaten up too. And they were not the one looting the stores, putting fires on the cars, along the sidewalk, whatever. But they got beaten up. This is a fact. You can go back to see all the footage on the TV footage. Now, after that, I will tell you a true incident which I also witnessed. There was one student, because at that time, don't forget, we had a stay-at-home order. So lots of people got arrested. However, look at how police handling the situation, also with the court, a little bit involved. A student, a male student at a CSU got arrested, but he actually proved that he had nothing to do with it, whatever. He was outside. That's because he heard the news there was a riot. So he was actually trying to go back to where he stayed to avoid that. He got arrested, but he was released. On the other hand, homeless individuals was trying to get away from it, to follow stay-at-home order and not to get involved into the whole chaotic situation. She actually was originally unsheltered, but that was the day she decided to go into the shelter where I stay. Guess what? Before she could get in on the sidewalk, she was actually arrested and she was not released. Why? You can count being female, being unhoused. Of course, she will not have any help to go to the police to help her to get her out. So she had to go to court, go through a pre-trial hearing, whatever she actually did not deserve. She was trying to come into a shelter to follow, doesn't matter, you want to talk about a stay-at-home order or at that time, remember we had a curfew, citywide curfew, because of our incident downtown. She was arrested, not released, and she was put to go to trial. So this is the reason why community in general have certain feelings, certain mentalities toward police. And please, this will be a good opportunity for you to also examine not just the procedure they put on paper, also their culture, how they carry out all the things they put on paper or the computer screen. And I wish if you guys can do a good job this time, that will really boost up general public's confidence in you. Remember, we had a very chaotic last year with all the meetings people could see. So this will be a good opportunity. Just like we want to advertise the scenario-based training to let people to get to know our police. However, inside of our police division, we have two extremes. Mr. Magoo, what's his title? Commander Magoo definitely is the one trying to remedy, to repair the damage, trying to do what is best for community and for police. But you still have people in the police force. They want to stick to the old ways. For example, we made commission, doesn't matter as a whole or individual commissioner ask for documents. They don't want to send it to us. Whenever you ask for certain things, they don't want to cooperate. We still have that in the police. So please, it's good to be optimistic, but also you have to be cautious. Don't let one success to blindside us. The community needs your eyes, your ears still be open. Otherwise, if we do some of the good job here, but we miss other points, that will not help the commission to actually lift the whole thing up, because you will always be considered flawed and a failure. We do not want that to happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lulu. The time is now 7:17, and I am going to adjourn this meeting. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate that.
We had to work on to get that